Can you tell me a little bit about, so we've referred back to Power of 10, which was written a few years ago now.
Yeah, a long time, like over 10 years ago.
Has anything changed in your application of a protocol? Have you learned anything about adaptations you've made? What does a Power of 10 workout look like today?
Oh boy, you know, I'm doing this 21 years now. It's been over 10 years since I wrote the book, and first thing, my brain has changed. My outlook on exercise has changed a lot. In terms of, I always feel like I know less now than I did then. You know, there's so much we're finding out with genetics, particularly, and you know, the individuality between people, and this idea that. So I always question whether everybody needs high intensity, and how do you apply that high intensity, and it's so hard in a book to just say, all right, this is what you do, because of all the variations. So what's changed, quite honestly, is where I used to just put every single person through the same workout all the time and insist on a certain pace, insist on a certain order, you know, and follow these rules that my mentors had taught me in the early days. And I made the mistake, I think, of not thinking for myself in a way, just following the strict protocol. Now, I still believe in the principles of lifting weights slowly and safely, and there has to be a certain level of intensity. But I think that's pretty much where the rules end in a way. You know, I mean, I've introduced intervals into my training now. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not just using these retrofitted cammed machines anymore. I'm not so adamant about doing fused movement arms anymore, as opposed to independent and bilateral types of movements when I feel it's necessary. And why do I feel those things are necessary? I mean, the variables are unending. You know, there's so many variables depending upon a person's genetics, lifestyle, age, psychological profile, if you will. So many of these things come into play. I mean, like, what good is putting somebody through a very strict Ken Hutchins-like original protocol when mentally they can't handle it? You know, they just don't have the motor skills, or they don't have the capacity to work out that hard for that briefly. What do you do? As it turns out, a lot of times they just happen to be maybe somebody with more slow twitch muscle fiber. And if I just lowered the weight a little bit and increased the time under load, everything would be honky-dory. But I was too short-sighted at the time to understand that.
That's an interesting one. So let's say in that example of that individual you've just talked about there,
yeah.
By lightening the load, what do you find happens for them physiologically speaking?
Well, I see them progressing all of a sudden. Now when I lower the weight and I keep their time under load, let's say for them 2 minutes seems to be the spot. And it's not just physiologically. I mean, I am seeing the results, but I think they're also mentally handling it better.
Do they still go to muscular failure?
Absolutely, they absolutely do. But it just takes a little bit longer to get there, and they handle them. Like, there are some people that if they're reaching muscle failure in like 45 seconds or 60 seconds, or even a minute and 15 seconds, and they reach muscle failure and they've done everything perfectly, they're disappointed. They feel that they didn't do enough. They always feel like they haven't done enough. And I say, but you did it perfectly. You're progressing. You're seeing results. Stop getting so frustrated by a minute 15. You did what you're supposed to do. I don't know. I think I need to do more. I don't know. I feel like they always think they could have got that. They always are disappointed they didn't get that next rep. They never get the objective of reaching muscle failure versus finishing a certain number of reps. No matter how many times I tell them that it's not about how many reps you've done, it's about muscle fatigue, they still feel, I wish I should have done another one. I could have done another one. That kind of attitude. And but as soon as I increase their TULs to 2 minutes, they're very satisfied. They reach muscle failure, but now they're satisfied. Now they're not complaining that they suck.
Right.
You know, there's this self-loathing that they disappointed me. They disappointed themselves. I'm like, it's not. This is not what this is supposed to be like.
How a question coming out from that is, how important do you think it is for somebody to get to momentary muscular failure as opposed to, say, a rep shy? I mean,
depends on the person. Once again, it depends on the person. But no, I don't think it's absolutely important to. It's kind of like an analogy I make is I don't think you have to be in ketosis to have a good diet. You know, I think ketosis is a great state to be in, and I'm all for somebody if they can handle living a lifestyle and eating in a way that keeps them in ketosis. On the other hand, do I think it's absolutely important in order to lose weight and to be healthy, they have to be in ketosis all the time? Absolutely not. And I have kind of a similar attitude towards high intensity training. Because if you can still keep your carbs low, but you're not in ketosis, you're still going to have anti-inflammatory effects. You'll probably be able to burn fat as fuel as a result of not eating too many carbohydrates. And I think all things would be good. Same thing with high intensity training. I think, yeah, I mean, we have these alpha subjects. We used to refer to them. People that can go until they faint practically. And I don't think that's good either, quite honestly, except for certain individuals that can handle it. On the other side of the spectrum, I mean, like if you're approaching failure, but not quite, in my opinion, going to where you have to go, but I can still see them progressing, what do I care? And if they can maintain that, because as we know, people progress at the beginning, and then, then I have to have this discussion with people after they've been here a couple of years, like, well, am I getting any stronger? I said, no, but you're not getting any weaker. You're 300% stronger than you were when I first met you, and you're maintaining that 300% strength, right? And you're 65 years old. So to be where you are in strength compared to where you were when you were 60 years old, this is a huge win just to maintain where you are right now. And you got to look at it that way, because a lot of people have this idea that they have to keep getting stronger, keep getting stronger. And if that was true, then we'd all be Arnold Schwarzenegger, eventually. But it's not. We all have our physical limitations. Not that we won't accept them. We're always going to try to push. But while we're pushing to get stronger and we're maybe not getting stronger, we're still understanding that we're at 300% better than we were when we started. We might be slightly disappointed that we can't seem to get that last rep out or that last ounce up, and we want to hit 300 pounds and we can't get past 290, but we started at 190, or less. We have to kind of accept, and the word acceptance comes to mind. Never settle, but also accept and be happy where you are.
How many times a week do you like to have your clients train?
Varies. Once or twice. I mean, very few people come 3 times a week. Very, very few. A large portion come twice a week, and a large portion I don't know the numbers, but it's between 1 and 2 a week. And then what we do with people once a week versus twice a week, varies greatly also, depending upon the individual.
Do you always run full body routines, or occasionally do you run like an upper lower split, or are you a big sort of proponent?
We do a pretty comprehensive intake, and we try to size a person up on their past experiences, what they do, people gravitate to what they're good at, right? So it's a good indication of what type of person they are. In some ways, there are a lot of clues. You do this as long as I've been doing it. You learn to read clues, kind of like Columbo. But based on their answers, even if they're not telling you the truth, you kind of know what they're saying. It's kind of funny. But when you find out, when somebody says that they hate cardio and they were never able to run more than a half mile without conking out, and they happen to have kind of like a muscular build, and this is what they've done. They played football in college, and their position was line or something like that, as opposed to wide receiver, and you start to piece together what kind of person they are and how they might do best with it, what exercise technique might do best for them. If I get some lanky runner that loves running, then I kind of have a clue to an extent what would be best for them. So when it comes to once a week, twice a week, intensity levels, the routine itself, the order of the exercises, these all vary on the person. For example, it's kind of like a rule of thumb. You start with, as you probably know, you start, as a general rule, I like to start lower body and then work my way to upper body. Larger muscle groups, working my way to smaller muscle groups, which is pretty much the generic kind of approach. But there are some people that hate starting with lower body, rather finish with lower body, which would personally, I hate that idea. All right, I want to get the leg press out of the way, the squats out of the way, right, as soon as possible. You know, that can put me into a state of depression just anticipating my squat day. Other people rather wait till the end because if they do it first, it wipes them out for the rest of the workout. They don't feel like they're doing the rest of the and this is what I used to do at the beginning, but I don't do anymore. At the beginning, I used to say, too bad, we're doing legs first because that's the best way to do it, kind of. And I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing to their psyche, you know, and the rest of their workout. Because one of my mentors taught me to do lower body first and work your way up, you know. I realize now, you know, that there are some people that rather start with their upper body. I do lots of people where we alternate. Do leg press, then do pull down, then go back to hip abduction, then go down back to chest press, and then go back to some calf raise, and then, you know, and go upper body, lower body, and alternate. Some people do twice a week routines. We do the Doug McGuff Big Five, for example, all compound movements. All right, whack them out once a week like that. Really push them hard like that. And then the next time they come back, we're doing rotary torso, we're doing a whole spine routine, working on the core a little bit, doing some ab exercises, doing some TRX straps, single-legged, you know, things like that. Maybe use a roller here and there if they have some issues in that regard. And that can be their second routine. Or maybe what we do is we do lower body and then we do upper body for a two-day-a-week routine. So again, the individual kind of in a way dictates this, not just from a physical aspect, but from what's in their head, what motivates them. And that's a big change from my original Power of 10. Not so much the book, but just what my mindset was when I wrote Power of 10 and how I used to train people back in those days. I mean, that's probably the biggest change that's occurred, is that I have to realize that there are huge individual preferences, and really the bottom line is motivating somebody to be consistent and to work out hard and to do it safely. And if you can do that, that's 90% of it. That really is 90% of the game right there. All the other stuff we argue about, you know, time under load, split routines, negative onlys, and you name it. We're all fighting about it and having these discussions about it, and that's all well and good. I love those discussions, but that kind of minutia, it's just academic masturbation most of the time. When it comes, because when you're dealing with somebody one-on-one and you're looking in their eyes and you're trying to get them motivated, and you see that they've stuck something out for the first time in their lives for more than 6 months, you know, and they are feeling stronger, right? Who gives a shit if they're not doing breakdowns or whatever the hell it is, or, you know, it becomes a moot point.
This is the thing that seems like a real separation to me between, you have the people online who obsess about this type of exercise, and they may be fantastic trainers, but they obsess and they argue about the minutia.
Yeah.
How many of your clients know or give a damn about what the protocol is?
We developed a trust, right? So they trust that me, they trust that I and the rest of my staff are doing all that work and doing all that research. We do a very good job communicating with our clients, not just when they're here, but offline when they're not here, email blasts, and I have my podcast. We have a newsletter that goes out. We're always sending out something if something's interesting. So we are keeping them informed. I mean, that's why my name of my company is Informed Fitness, to keep my clients informed about ongoing progression in principles and exercise. And however, we're not inundating them with research. We kind of say, hey, you know, we're trying this now, we might do that, or this is an interesting article and I might give my commentary on it, you know. And as I change routines, I say, hey, we're doing this for this reason and doing this for this reason. They appreciate the feedback, but they just really, as my co-author of Power 10 said to me, just show them how to do it. That's what people want. You know, we have the engineer types here, we have the science, we have plenty of doctor clients, and of course sometimes we get deep into the weeds and the minutia. But that's only because they have the interest in it, and by all means, we are very happy to share this information if they're interested. But to answer your question, the majority of our clients really they're not asking all these deep questions about the minutia of the industry. You know, not usually.